Hey bro, I'm Carrie, and now I will tell you what is the difference between Dockerfile, Docker-compose, Kubernetes, and ArgoCD. And we need to know about is for file, Dockerfile and docker-compose.yml and Kubernetes and ArgoCD. They are related, but they do different jobs. So today I will tell you how to understand the difference between them and when to use them. Okay, first, here is a Dockerfile. And the Dockerfile is a package guide to tell Docker how to build an image. What you need is your code. You need to have your code, and you have a Dockerfile, and you will run a command to get a Docker image. So the Dockerfile is to tell the Docker after you run the command to build a Docker image, how should it execute it. So this is Dockerfile. It's help Docker to package your code into a Docker image. Okay, so Dockerfile does nothing by itself. It only describes how an image is built. So we can only search in cursor. Let me ask if I have a Dockerfile, how to get an image by this. So just ask cursor. Yeah, so you can use docker build -t-aid. So this is the name of your image, and the -t, the t meaning is tag. You can use docker build. When you use this command, the Docker desktop will find your Dockerfile. You will have a Dockerfile such as this one. You will have a Dockerfile in your code, and the Docker will read the Dockerfile, what it happened, how it will execute, and it will use the Dockerfile to package your code into a Docker image after you run this code. Okay, so. And the second is docker-compose.yml, and it will run multiple container locally. Sometimes you will run maybe some database such as Postgre and Redis and your server at the same time. So you need to have a docker-compose.yml. It's not for building image. It's just tell you how to run my container. And if you haven't image, it will build the image by your Docker-compose write. So the typical usage is your backend service, your database, your Redis, your message queue, but it's not for production. It's for dev environment, you know. So if it just run on one machine, and mostly for local deployment, because it only run on one machine. So then we need to talk about Kubernetes, because Kubernetes can run container in production. And why Kubernetes can run container in production? Because Kubernetes exists because Docker alone is not enough for production. Docker's and Kubernetes answers, how do I run container reliable at scale? You know. So Kubernetes provides this function: auto restart, scaling, load balance, and running updates, and multi-machine architecture. So it's really important if you are in production environment. So this is why people often say Docker build container and Kubernetes run them at production. And Docker Compose is for your local development, for your local dev environment. And if you are in production, you need to use the Kubernetes. But whatever you use Kubernetes or you use Docker Compose, you also need to have a Dockerfile, because Dockerfile will define how you package your code. You know. So then we have ArgoCD. ArgoCD is a manager of your Git. It's just a Git operations controller. You maybe don't need to care about this because it's a DevOps team skill. You don't need to care about this. You just need to know about Dockerfile, docker-compose.yml, Kubernetes. So Dockerfile is how you build your code into an image, and docker-compose.yml it's for your local test. Maybe dev environment, you can test at your machine locally. Okay, so if you are in production, you need to use that at the Kubernetes. And whatever you use Kubernetes or docker-compose.yml, you just need to have Dockerfile to package your code into an image. And then you just call your DevOps team. And then they will use ArgoCD to decide when to run some container or image. So that is what. And I hope you can enjoy this. And finally, we have some common misunderstandings such as Docker Compose not building image. Docker Compose is just run containers, but you can use Docker Compose to run some container that is in the Docker desktop. So sometimes it will auto build some image for you because in your Docker Compose file there are some Docker desktop image, so it will auto build image for you and then run it. And ArgoCD manage Docker container? Not. It just manage Kubernetes state. Okay, and the Kubernetes can't replace Docker because Kubernetes use container image and not build container image. You need to use Docker to have a Dockerfile, such as this one. You need to have a Dockerfile and you run this command to build your code into image, and then you can use Kubernetes to run your container. And in production, and if in your local, you can just use this one is for single server. If for multi-server, you need to use docker-compose.yml. So that's all. Thank you very much, bro. I hope you can enjoy much and have a nice day, bro.